Hello everyone, how's it going? It's the final render here, and welcome back to another Fallout 76 class building video. Today, we are going big, and we are getting lit AF fam. Because today, we are making a Junkies Big Guns Power Armor tank build using the most expensive weapon to fire inside Fallout 76. It's going to be great fun. If you enjoy this video, please consider subscribing. YouTube analytics say that only half the viewers on these videos are actually subscribed to the channel, so please consider subscribing if you enjoy it, because we are less than 500 subs away from 75,000 subscribers, and it will be ace to hit that soon. But with all that said, let's go! So to make our totally loaded junkie tank build, we're going to need a seriously sweet goodie. A full set of cherry T65 Power Armor. This brilliantly bulky and probably very sweaty armor set has the best damage resistance in the game and can be bought and upgraded using gold bullion from the Secret Service. Whilst there is a debate as to whether or not the Strangleheart armor may be the better power armor due to the small amount of poison damage you can deal with it and a very small amount of extra radiation resistance, but as far as I can research, the T65 still provides more protection overall and is far easier to acquire plans for, so we're going to be using that. The only real mods on the T65 Power Armor set we're going to be using are the calibrated shocks on the legs, which gives us an additional 100 pounds of carry weight. Essential in my opinion for Power Armor, and also the Emergency Protocols mod, which halves incoming attack damage and speeds us up by 25% when our health gets below 20%. That is insanely powerful if you're a bloody tank build, extremely large buffs for those lots. But for every other build, it just gives us a nice safety net when we are taking huge amounts of damage. But final render, you superbly chiseled beefcake, I hear your girlfriend saying. What weapon are we using for this build? Well, thanks for the compliment, and I'm happy to let you know that we have an incredibly powerful weapon for this build. Here we have a Junkies 250 damage resistance whilst reloading, plus 10% damage whilst aiming, Gauss Minigun. This is an insanely powerful weapon and can only be acquired by completing the main game of Wastelanders, and we have got some insane mods on this gun. For the mods, we have got the Pentabarrel mod, which gives us 5 spinning barrels of death and boosts our fire rate from 91 to 123, meaning you can dish out death quicker. Easy, right? And then after that, we have the Prime Capacitor, which gives us a significant damage boost, and even more significant when used against the Scorched and Scorched Beasts, outputting 232 points of damage instead of 182. An extremely significant improvement. However, the Prime Capacitor combined with the very high fire rate realistically makes this the most expensive gun to fire per shot than any other weapon in the game, simply due to the low yield of shots created when manufacturing prime 2mm EC. With Ammo Smith equipped, you can only produce 108 rounds, which require stable, Crimson Flux, 8 lead, 1 ultracite, and 22 steel. Very resource intensive for such a high rate of fire. Also, we throw on a gunner sight and a clandestine paint to give it a kick-ass look. So, plus 10% more damage whilst aiming and 250 damage resistance whilst reloading is pretty self-explanatory. But the Junkies effect is what makes this build great. The Junkies effect is what makes this a perfect tanker's weapon. How Junkies build work are that the more addictions your character is suffering from, the more damage your weapon outputs. So much so that it is comparable to Bloodied, without the extra bloody perks cards equipped, such as Nerd Rage for example. And you can get all this extra damage with a full health bar. But final render, you scientific specimen of beauty. Don't addiction minus your special points. Why would you ever do that for more damage? Well, you very observant sir/madam, you are right about addiction inside Fallout 76, that minuses your special points. However, the trick is to use addictions that don't minus much special stats. Pick the chems that aren't that bad, you know what I'm saying? So for example, being addicted to the chem XL minuses 2 special points from every one of your special categories. That's obviously very bad. However, being addicted to Day Tripper only minuses 1 luck and 1 agility. That's generally not that bad, right? So you have to pick the chems that aren't that bad to be addicted to. So for my build, I'm addicted to Alcohol, Buff Out, Daddio, Day Tripper, and Overdrive, meaning I lose 1 endurance, 2 agility, 1 perception, 1 luck, 2 charisma, 1 intelligence, and 2 strength. Genuinely not that bad. It doesn't affect what perk cards you can equip, so you can equip the exact same perk cards you normally would, and believe me when I say this, but you really won't miss those special points. They're so minor and so inconsequential that it makes the extra damage so incredibly worth it. Also, the damage maxes out after 5 addictions, so don't go too crazy folks, okay? Any more addictions won't give you any more damage output after 5 addictions has been reached. So, you've got your weapon, you've got your armor, and you've been 420 blazing it all week. What perks do we now need to complete the build? Well, in reality, this is actually a very simple and pretty meta heavy guns build, but with some interesting perks to fill that tank role. Firstly, we will need 15 strength to get rank 3 versions of Heavy Gunner, Expert Heavy Gunner, and Master Heavy Gunner. And this gives us an additional 60% of damage to our heavy guns. We'll also grab Bare Arms level 3, greatly reducing the weight of your heavy guns by 90%. So you can buy Lydia a trip to the day spa, she doesn't need to carry your burdens today. That being said though, if weight isn't an issue for your character, I'd highly recommend level 3 of Lock and Load to speed up those slow reloads by 90%. It's a massive improvement. And then for our final strength perk, we're going to equip Blocker level 3. This reduces all incoming melee attack damage by 45%. Now I know what you're saying, final, you stud muffin. That seems a bit silly considering Fallout is a shooting game. Ah, you stud muffin connoisseur, I applaud your question. But think about it for a second. How many melee enemies are there inside Fallout 76? Also, how many of those melee users are very powerful, such as child feral ghouls for example? There's loads, right? In fact, I'm willing to say there's probably more melee-only enemies inside Fallout 76 than shooting ones. But with this perk, their damage is almost cut in half, always. It's such an enormous difference, and you will thank me later. Next up, we want 3 points in endurance, so we can grab level 3 of Fireproof. This gives us a huge amount of protection from explosions and fire damage, reducing their damage by 45%. This is really helpful when fighting Scorch Beasts, in particular the Scorch Beast Queen, whose sonic attacks are rendered almost useless. They just bounce off your manly pecs, it's ace. Next, we want 3 points into Charisma to get level 3 of Suppressor. This reduces your enemy's damage by 30% for 2 seconds after you hit them. Now 2 seconds doesn't sound like much, but considering we have an extremely high rate of fire, certainly more than 1 shot a second, our enemies are always losing 30% of their damage. It's fantastic. Moving on into intelligence, we need 6 points, so we can equip level 3 of Batteries Included and level 3 of Stabilized. Batteries Included is critical for this build, as it reduces the weight of our energy ammo by 90%. Not only are we carrying thousands upon thousands of rounds of ammunition for our gun, which do get very heavy after a while, but also we need fusion cores for our power armor. And with this perk, you can carry all the ones you want with practically no weight issues at all. I very regularly have between 2,000 to 4,000 rounds of ammunition for the Gauss minigun and 50 to 80 fusion cores, and I don't get over encumbered. It's so useful, and I think it's far too good to ignore Batteries Included. And then of course we have Stabilized, which increases our accuracy with heavy guns greatly when in power armor, and our bullets ignore 45% of the enemy's armor. This not only makes aiming much easier, but ignoring 45% of the enemy's armor is incredibly useful. This combined with the fact that our particular gun has an extra 10% of damage when aiming, this means those aimed shots are extremely deadly. And then finally, we want 6 points in luck to equip level 3 of Bloody Mess and level 3 of One Gun Army. Bloody Mess is a bit of a no-brainer. It gives us a flat 15% more damage, always. Not only that, but it makes enemies explode into many gory bloody pieces, and that's hilarious. But then we have One Gun Army, which gives us a 12% chance to stagger and cripple enemy limbs when we hit them with our gun. Now that doesn't sound that great, but considering we have such a high rate of fire, you'll find you'll be crippling limbs and staggering enemies on a very regular basis. It's not quite as effective as Enforcer for shotgun builds, for example, but it's the same mindset. It still cripples enemies and blows off those pesky Thoughtbots' legs very, very easily. So overall then, how does this build perform in practice? Well, to put it simply, it's damn fantastic. In this build, our damage resistance and damage output is extremely well balanced for tanking. We can take so many attacks from enemies whilst maintaining mostly full health at all times. And also, whilst we're maintaining full health and tanking all that damage, our meth-fueled minigun throws out pain at thousands of rounds a minute. The gun itself, without the insane Junkies buff, is already super deadly to scorch enemies. And yes, it's true, my stash box cries every time I fire this gun, but my heart is on fire with the burning narcotics in my blood that are feeding my never-ending desire for destruction. Not only that, but nothing beats the feeling of dropping the toughest enemies in the game, whilst their punches just bounce off your titanium-coated abs like water on rock. Anyways, what I suppose I'm trying to say is the best way to sum up this build is that it's kind of the opposite to a Bloodied build. We are damaging our bodies to get more damage, same as Bloodied, but rather than losing health, we are losing special stats to get high damage. Not quite as much damage as Bloodied, sure, but it's pretty darn close, and having a full health bar and loads of resistance is the safer and more versatile build. But hey, if you feel like swapping the Junkies for a Bloodied weapon, then this build would also kick ass with that Bloodied weapon, I guarantee it. So thank you very much for watching this video, people. This has certainly been a fun one. Also, shout outs to friends of the channel, Lone Vault Wanderer and SH Games, who have done videos on this kind of build before. I wouldn't have tried it without that research those guys did, so thank you very much for that. And also, remember to check out the cool Patreon people in the description below who help support the channel with their financial donations. You yourself, of course, can also do the same. We are 500 subs away from 75,000. And I can't wait to see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye, gang. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.